contagious, isn't it? Contagious. And contagious is part of circulation. Now, it isn't always a part we like, because, some things that are contagious we really don't want to, So, let's start at the beginning. This month I'm talking about, the theme is why give? And today we're talking about the principle of circulation. Now, it's possible that it sounds kind of strange that there is such a thing as a principle of circulation. But as Denise pointed out in her different readings, without circulation, many things wouldn't happen. It's arguable that anything would happen, because circulation is how things move, is how things live, is how things survive, is how things get fed and how things release. It is such an integral part of all existence. And some of us, it's possible not all of us, but some of us may have heard somewhere along in our lives that what goes around comes around. Anybody but me ever hear that comment? Yeah. But we didn't necessarily understand at the time that we heard that how important it is and how far it goes. So as we're digging into this principle, now what is a principle? I always like to remind you. A principle is something that always is the same everywhere, all the time, no matter who, no matter what, no matter where, no matter when. So, in other words, it's something we can count on. And the principle of circulation is deeply important to all existence, because this give and take of life to life, not only the one life that is all life to itself, but all that we see around us participates in that give and take, including us, consciously or unconsciously. I recommend consciously, because it changes things. But if it's been unconscious to this point, the good news is that doesn't matter, because we can become conscious, we can become aware, we can realize, we can internalize, we can get the news, and it's real news, that this circulation thing is a big deal. Mm-hmm. And that we play a big role in it. That's part of our job. Mm-hmm. Now, we may not realize that it was given to us as a job, but it's part of how we're made. We inhale a breath that we did nothing to earn, and we exhale a breath that benefits everything around us. We inhale a breath we did nothing to earn, and we exhale a breath that benefits everything around us. Wouldn't it be lovely if we did that with our thoughts?
Mm.
If we inhaled a thought that was a blessing, that was an inspiration, that was a gift, like Laura's song, when those words came to her with that melody, when Joseph's incredible compositions just flow through his fingers. Wouldn't it be lovely if just for a second we caught the idea that inflow of an inspiration, of an insight, of a certain clarity that maybe we've been asking for, that we've been making room for? Wouldn't it be wonderful if we caught what a blessing that is, what a gift that is? And then we make the decision to turn it around as a blessing on its way out, rather than it just being a habitual thing. Oh yeah, I had this great idea, let me tell you all about it, blah, 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 blah. But where's the blessing in that? Where's the consciousness in that when we're sharing something, no matter how we're doing it, when we're sharing something, we're sharing a part of ourselves that is unique to us. Even if, let's say that we're having a conversation with someone where they see something one way and we see something another, but we're discussing our perspectives rather than getting into an argument about our differences. We're discussing our perspectives. Oh, what a lovely thing that is. To have the opportunity to really listen to someone else's way of seeing, way of feeling, to really listen, and then to give them the gift of how we see it and how we feel it. And trust each other in the process that this is not going to turn into World War III. Because there's no need for that to happen. If we start out by establishing, let's say, a company policy, we can say, I have a policy. And my policy is that I respect everyone's opinion. And everyone's right to have one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've all heard the thing about belly buttons, right? That opinions are like belly buttons, everybody has one. Oh, well, that was new to some people. How fun. But an opinion, a belly button and an opinion don't require a judgment. It's just an observation. We're listening. We're blessing someone with our listening. Denise and I went to a a book reading yesterday at Garcia Books. And the title of the book that is just coming out, that was written by this lovely person, the author, is Sometimes You Should Be Late.
Oh, good.
And many of the people in the audience were so curious about that title. And what he was talking about was getting off of the cycle of whatever we had been attached to along the way or become attached to along the way about the implications of being late. Because certainly punctuality, being early, is one way of being. Is there ever, and fortunately I'm not standing in Los Angeles right now, is there ever a reason to be late that's justifiable?
Yes.
Yeah. Of course. Of course. And isn't it worth our while, as far as whatever the relationship is with the people or person that we're meeting, isn't it worth our while to be curious and welcoming? I mean, is it more important to see the person that's meeting us than it is for them to be on time? One person, sure. Two people are, yeah, maybe.
Can you repeat what you said?
Is it more important to be with the person who's meeting you than it is for them to be on time?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, there's 4 people that say yes. So maybe if I keep talking about it, there'll be 6 or 7. The book is not about punctuality. We bought a copy, by the way, Denise and I, and we're going to read it to each other, which we love to do. Because there are many things in this book that kick up questions about patterns. Patterns of behavior, patterns of opinion. So stay tuned. We have up until now, one of my favorite expressions, we have up until now possibly been kind of stuck in some of our ways of being. Not all of us, but some of us have been, have kind of gotten into this rhythm. The thing about the rhythm is that it doesn't take us anywhere. It's a rhythm, it's a movement, but it doesn't take us anywhere. And one of the ways that we come to recognize those patterns and we come to question them and wonder if there might not be a different way And if there is a different way, how do I find out what it is? And then how do I apply it and how do I stick with it? Which I know nobody in this room has any issue with whatsoever. It's a giving and receiving practice. Now, how is that? Well, if we're looking at an old pattern that we may be starting to recognize has us kind of in the weeds. You know what I mean by in the weeds?
Yep.
We're standing there, we're moving, but we're not moving. So what are we in the weeds of? We're in the weeds of our own thought. How do we move out of the pattern that we've been in into a new idea about a new possibility about how we might get from here to there with ease? Well, we start first of all with what? We start first of all with how we imagine it might feel to no longer be in the weeds and be moving freely in our life and considering possibilities as if, and of course this is actually the truth, as if they're all available to us. I had a very interesting experience this week. I was on the radio. You might remember a month ago when I posted I was going to be on the radio. Well, I was there a month early. That's way beyond being on time. Anyway, so the rabbi, who I adore, whose show this is, he had, he was wanting to learn more about us and wanting to learn more about me. And so he went to our website and he discovered what we believe. And he was enthralled. And he had so many questions. And I had this whole thing prepared, and I had sent him, questions, tickler questions that he might ask me, or some version of that. And he said, "Would you mind?" This was the day of. "Would you mind if we talk about what we believe?" And I said, "I would love it. Absolutely, let's talk about what we believe." He happens to be, and has been for years and years, fascinated by other faith traditions and what they believe and how they practice and what they teach. And so this was a very receptive audience to the answers that I was giving him and the questions that I was asking him in terms of what our philosophy states and how we practice it. Our philosophy is, as you know, about having a new way of life by virtue of how we think and what we think and how attached we are to our old thoughts. Because the new way of being that we seek, some of us, or the new way of doing that we seek, whatever it is, has to start with changing our minds to change our lives. It isn't just a catchy phrase that Ernest Holmes came up with over coffee one morning. In fact, it has been part of the great teachings in one way or another throughout time. Our perceptions and our attachment to our perceptions keep us right where we are. So how do we participate in this law of circulation? How do we participate with this principle of circulation in a different way so that it somehow gets us or helps us get unstuck? Well, first, let me say that not all of us is stuck. Now that may sound, yes, Billy, I know that sounds weird, but because I see that. Remember that I have said before, we have this physical body that is having a physical experience. Our spiritual body, however, is not having this physical experience. It is having an unlimited experience. And it's always right where we are. We don't have to go anywhere to get it. We don't have to take any classes or have a certificate to prove that we have one. In fact, good luck with that. And it's always right where we are. So why isn't it having our experience? Because it doesn't relate in the way we do as humans to experience. It doesn't judge, it doesn't criticize, it doesn't evaluate. It just hangs out with us, kind of like this omnipresent protection from ourselves that is available anytime that we would decide we're available to it. Let me say that again, if I can remember what I said. It hangs out like this omnipresent protection that is available anytime. Protection, guidance, clarity, ease, grace, peace that just hangs out with us all the time, is available to our awareness anytime that we make ourselves available to it. Part of Denise's reading this morning referred to this very thing. We can only take in. We can only receive. We can only allow what we're ready to accept, what we're open to, what we're receptive to. We can't just do lip service to the idea of having a different experience in our life and say, because this is one of my favorite things about what people expect from a spiritual mind treatment or affirmative prayer. Rabbi was very curious about what affirmative prayer was. And we didn't get much further than that. Anyway. Well, if I affirm it, or better still, if you affirm it, then I'm just going to wait. No. Waiting will only keep us waiting.
Yes.
Waiting is self-perpetuating.
Mm-hmm.
I'm waiting for somebody else to get their act together so that I can finally be happy.
How's that working?
Good luck.
No. I'm the one I've been waiting for.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm open, and when I'm willing, and when I'm allowing beyond the committee, my committee happens to live between my temples. I'm willing, I'm ready, I'm available to not only be the recipient, but be the vessel of all that is available to me now. Now, what does being the vessel mean? You aren't just a freaking container. You are a revelation. You're an expression. You are the presence of those possibilities. You are the presence of all that good. You are the presence of loving kindness. You are the presence of that peace, that clarity, that certainty. All of it is given permission to move through you, express as you, without restraint. Now the rabbi said to me, it seems funny for me to say that like that in a synagogue. The rabbi said to me, but isn't that sort of like surrender? And I said, yeah, it's very like surrender. Because we're no longer fighting to be the boss. We're no longer fighting to be in control. It's not a matter of control. Control is a human idea.
Mm-hmm.
That's right, Laurel. Control is a human idea. And even though it scares us to our willies to think about letting go of control of the things that we can't control anyway. Because the only thing that we can control is this.
Mm-hmm.
But letting go of a false idea of control of the things that we can't control anyway is getting in the way of this.
Mm-hmm.
What do I mean by this?
Circulation.
Circulation. Because by hanging on to a false idea of control, we are standing with our foot, actually both feet, on the hose. And by the hose, I mean our flow of good. which is always right here. It's always right here. Okay, if I had more time, which I don't, but I'll talk about it next week, is what about other people's flow? How much control do we have over other people's flow?
None.
Laura went like this. Zip is how much. However, now I really want, this is your homework. I really want you to chew on this. By being open and willing and available and receptive to our good and sharing the good that we already have in whatever ways we can, whether it's energy or money or enthusiasm or whatever it is, laughter, sharing our good in whatever way, paintings, whatever ways we can. We are participating in this circulation, not just for ourselves, but for everyone. Because there is no separation. So there's no such thing as a blessing that only blesses Denise and doesn't bless all of us. There's no such thing as a blessing that only blesses Carol Rodriguez and doesn't bless all of us. Because they are participating in the principle of circulation. On the other hand, let's say that we receive an unexpected, we find it $1,000 on the ground. I know people that's happened to. We find $1,000 on the ground and we go like this. Ooh. Ooh. I hope nobody saw. I hope my relatives don't find out. I hope my church doesn't find out. But that's a talk for another day. And so it is.
And so it is.